Hello friends, so today's video is going to be the Unpopular Opinions 2.0 tag. So this is a new original tag, and anybody who wants to do this tag, I tag whoever wants to do it, and you are welcome to do this in the comment section down below. I would love to know your answers to these. But it's taking kind of the idea of the Unpopular Opinions tag, which is great, and I'll have the original creator of that one in the description bar down below. But it's taking the concept of having opinions that it seems like nobody else really seems to share, or those that do, there's maybe not a lot of you, taking that concept but then asking some different questions. But jumping into it, the first question is a genre great that you don't really get the hype for. You can do this for a genre that you read often. You can do this for any genre. Maybe you've noticed a certain book that's really, really popular in a specific genre and you don't really know why. Why is that the book that seems to represent that genre? I obviously read a lot of fantasy, and kind of a subgenre within fantasy at this point is mythology retellings. I see this sometimes categorized under fiction, and I see this sometimes categorized under fantasy. But regardless, I didn't love the Song of Achilles. I liked the writing style of Song of Achilles quite a bit. I thought it was really exceptionally readable and beautiful at the same time. And so the metaphorical aspects of it I thought were well done. It didn't feel like it was too much or too much purple prose, but it was still really elegant and pretty and easy to read. So I like the style. I plan to eventually check out Circe by this same author, but I could not stand Achilles in this book. His personality was that he had a big ego. That was Achilles' personality. And a lot of people see this as this tragic, beautiful love story. It's tragic in the sense that one of them is the worst, and they don't exactly seem to treat the other one with that much love and care and respect. So that was tragic, but I don't feel like that's the part everybody finds sad. And he's petulant, and he's spoiled, and he's used to being fawned after and told that he's the best, and I just couldn't stand him. And then Patroclus, I guess it's kind of sad because he loves him, and then he's kind of watching the downfall of this person that he loves, and he loves him anyway, and so it's sad because it's like it's taking Patroclus too. Usually in retellings, it's kind of the let's focus in on this and have a different take and show this in a way that is maybe we're taking a character who normally isn't shown very often, or maybe we're reanalyzing how the time in which this story was first created, how the time in which it was created had a certain view of certain groups of people, and so let's further dissect why is this character seen as a villain, or how come this other, and you have those aspects of retellings. And I definitely could see how the relationship between Achilles and Patroclus could have been done in a way that was really beautiful, and it is really moving to a lot of people. It just makes me sad because I wanted these two characters to genuinely really care for one another and for there to be a little bit more of an equal amount of love between the two of them. I wanted them to care and be kind, and for the fact that the inevitability of their lives were what was tragic, not the fact that it seemed like one of them loved the other and the other didn't really care because of his ego. So it just made me sad. It made me sad for Patroclus, but also not for the reasons I feel like everybody else is sad. The next question is an adaptation that you wish was never made. I have not watched the new Rings of Power. I'm not against the creation of this show in its entirety. I'm just a little sad because there's so many amazing stories that have never had any part of the world or the characters or anything ever adapted in any form. And I wish that the amount of money that was poured into Rings of Power could have been poured into another story that deserves to be told on another medium. Of course, the quality of a story is not dependent on whether or not it gets an adaptation. It's just that there are so many fantastic stories that I think I would love it if more people could find them through a video game or a TV show or a movie that might not ever discover them in book form for whatever reason. The next question is, what is a book or series that you have to fight back your inner snob because you feel like a lot of people just don't get it? So a little context for this question, even though I think it's rather self-explanatory. I think a lot of us, we hate it when somebody tries to be dismissive of our opinions by just saying, well, maybe you just didn't get it. And it's like, no, I understood. I just didn't like it. And here's all the reasons why. I just said these things, in fact, and you're still trying to decide that none of that matters because you must be right. And you get really frustrated when people say that to you. And then occasionally there is a story that you love and you hold very dear. And somebody's like, I don't know, I just didn't really like, and they list their reasons. And in your head, you're like, I just feel like they didn't get it. And you have to kind of fight back. You don't want to be that person, right? So, be honest. When is a time where you've had to fight back that inner snob? So for me, that is The Kingdom of Back by Marie Lu. So the story follows Nonuro Mozart, who was Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart's sister. She was a real figure in history. She was just as talented, if not more talented, than her brother. However, because of the restrictions placed on women in that time, she was never really recognized the way that her brother was. And so Marie Lu took this idea of when the Mozart siblings would travel around a lot, they had this make-believe land that they were the king and queen of called the Kingdom of Back. And she took that and she made it into this sort of portal fantasy, magical realism sort of story where they go to this place in the book and there's a lot of really strange things that happen. It almost has a twisted fae feel to it. Almost in some ways it starts out really whimsical and beautiful and sort of an escape, but then as our main character is getting older, it starts to get a lot darker and a lot more sinister. And I think there's so many things to dissect about just that thing I just mentioned and why it's turning the way it's turning and what it means and how it parallels to the main character's actual life. But I sometimes see people that are like, the magic just didn't make sense. And I'm like, well, it's not supposed, that's not the point. And I have to really, because I'm like, I mean, it is nonsensical. And I'm like, it's a child's imagination and it's paralleling what's going on in her life. And it's sad because as she's growing up, she's realizing the restrictions on her own life that are being placed on her. And there's clearly some characters that are representing figures in her own life and the love and adoration she used to have for them and the protection she used to feel from them and how it's actually sort of this twisted thing because of society. And I'm like, I have all these things about the book that those are my interpretations. And so every now and then it's like, I thought it was going to be like Narnia, but it wasn't. And I'm like, and I get sad. And it's completely legitimate if you don't care for it. And I'm sure plenty of other people see those things. And maybe they don't, and it doesn't matter because it's all up for interpretation. Art is art. There is no right or wrong, especially in a story like this that's somewhat abstract. But that is the book where I have to fight that, you know? I understand that it's art, but there's another part of me that's like, but I feel like this is what it is, right? This is the right interpretation, and that's not a thing. But I have to, you know, if I'm being honest, I have those thoughts sometimes, and I know all of you do too. The next question is, what is a book or series you're tired of everyone hating on? I don't mind at all that there are plenty of people that don't care for the A Court of Thorns and Roses series. I understand why a lot of people don't care for it, and it has so many fans, and her books are consistently Amazon top sellers. It's just that there have been so many times that there are rant reviews or there are people doing a whole vlog. And like, I enjoy rants. I think that they serve a purpose. I enjoy that there is a place for people to express themselves and be open and honest about why something didn't work for them. I also understand the entertainment factor of trying to take something really popular and sort of make a fun video to make somebody else's day a little bit better. My friends have videos about this series and I'm not upset with anybody. It's just more that there's just so many. And it's not like I'm sitting over here thinking, can you just find something else to make fun of now? How about this series? It's not that I have another one in mind that I'm like, please take its place. I've seen it a lot. Oh no, the next question is, what is a book or series that you know and understand is really, really powerful and that a lot of people are really moved by, but you felt nothing for? I think for this one, I'm gonna have to go House in the Cerulean Sea. I'm sorry to everybody who loves it. And it is cute. It is cute. And I really appreciate the themes and trying to articulate, because if you don't know, there's this orphanage of children who are seen as it's like society has already determined that they are meant to be other, or that they have certain perceptions of those children for circumstances they can't control. And so then the book is showing why those children deserve to be loved, and they shouldn't have to prove that they deserve to be loved and respected. It's something that should be granted to people. We shouldn't just have these negative ideas of what people are and what they're going to be. And I think that those messages are really important and really powerful, and I'm so grateful that this book has moved so many people and it's meant so much to so many people. I just didn't really feel... It was cute. I mean, it was cute. And I think that those themes are fantastic. I just think there's something about... It's a very kind of silly story in how it's told, and it's very... It almost feels like it should be an animated film, and very colorful and vibrant, and I think that almost a Pixar animation style. And that would be fantastic and lovely, and I think that that would be a story where if it was adapted in that way, kids could see it and really relate and connect, and then adults kind of, I think, would feel a lot toward it as well. So it's got mass appeal, it's got great themes. I just, for whatever reason, I think there's something about how it's told that I don't want to say it was too on the nose. It was more just that it was maybe a little extra. A little extra for my taste. The next question is a character that you don't really get the hype for. I thought to myself, I was like, how much do I want to upset people? Because I know a lot of you already know. My friends make fun of me because they know too, and they also know that it makes other people really mad. So I'm just gonna say, I don't love Adolin. Just rip off the band-aid and get it over with. I don't love Adolin from the Stormlight Archive. He's fine. I just don't find him to be nearly as compelling as a lot of the other characters. The next question is a book or series that everyone wants an adaptation for and you don't. And I have a whole video discussing, I actually just talked about Adolin, so let's just stay on that train. So I have a whole video discussing a potential Stormlight Archive adaptation, and I talk about how whatever direction that Brandon Sanderson wants to go with any potential adaptations in the future, I think that he knows what would work best for his series. For me, if Stormlight Archive was a movie, I kind of don't think that would ever work. I just feel like there's so much to that story that, okay, I can get on board with it being live action, but in my mind, it's gotta be a TV show. There's so many elements to the characters and their backstory and to the world, and there's so many things to show and to develop. There's a reason those books are so long, and I don't feel like a movie, you would have to cut way too many things and condense it down, and it would sort of take what makes Stormlight so amazing. It would take that out. You just wouldn't, I just don't think that you could make that work in such a short amount of time. And so I would go see it, but there's a little part of me that's like, there's just no way that that could work. The last question is, what is a book or series that you feel like people perhaps do not love or hate as much as they say? And the goal with this question is not to try and imply that people are purposefully being really deceitful and they're lying. The idea is that there is, of course, going to be bias for books for various different reasons, sometimes positive and sometimes negative. To give an example, I've talked about before, whenever I buddy read a book with my mom, I tend to end up looking at that book favorably just for the experience of being able to share in this hobby with my mom, because I love my mom a lot, and it's really fun to take this thing I love and a person that I love and combine those things. And so I always feel like, oh, I'm not really going to be able to go into this book the same way I would typically. And so I think I'm just going to kind of answer this. I almost feel like I'm cheating at my own question here, but I'm just going to say for positive and negative. I think that when something reaches a certain level of popularity, and I'm specifically talking about being here on BookTube, when something reaches a certain level of popularity, I think some individuals, when they see that other book lovers are commenting about how much they love it, when they're getting a lot of views, they might be more inclined to pick up the next book in the series, to keep making videos about that series, and sort of get swept up in the hype train, get swept up in the love of the story through the fandom, and then that can kind of cause them to maybe not take that step back and really look at how much they love it. It's kind of like what I was talking about with my mom, except for with a ton of people, with an entire fandom. So I think that can be the case. I think on the negative end, sometimes there is that urge to take something that everybody loves. Kind of, you could pick this apart and probably learn a lot about people depending on which direction they go with this. But when something reaches a certain level of popularity, some people might be more inclined to then try to perhaps, maybe it's not intentional, but be overly critical of it, to almost search for the things that other people aren't really talking about and kind of be that voice for the people who are tired of all the hype and who are tired of constantly hearing such great things. So I think that's one aspect of this. And then I'm going to add that I think, sadly still, certain age ranges and genres, there still is genre bias, there still is snobbery that takes place. I think that for a while it occurred quite a lot where people would be very negative towards young adult books, and that always irked me. I always pushed back on that because I found that it was almost like this way to establish yourself as being more mature. You don't like those fluffy YA books. It's not nearly as bad, I think, now. I think at this point a lot of people are recognizing the value in all sorts of different kinds of stories and understand that not every story is for us individually, that we should have stories that represent all different kinds of people from different walks of life in different stages of their life. And I think we're getting better about recognizing that as a whole. It's a good thing that there are different forms of art for different people. That's it for this book tag. Let me know what your answers to these questions would be. Like I said before, anybody who wants to do this tag is welcome to. I tag you. I'll have the questions listed. But anyway, thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you all later. Bye.